go.
There it
Did
is.
it work? We're on.
Yeah, we're live.
Oh man, we are live. Man, LaMonica, thank you so much for doing this.
Man.
I can't.
This is what it's about, man. I appreciate this. This is awesome.
Too cool, too cool. I mean, we got to hang out on set, and you were like leaving the next day to go film 1883. I have a ton of questions for you, probably more than you have for me. But for people that are joining, I want them to take a look at this guy. Look at that guy right there.
Good lighting right there. That's good lighting.
Look at that look, though. I mean, so powerful. I mean, just that one look, it's so awesome. Yeah,
man. It starts with the writing. Oh, amazing.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time, because you have got to be so busy. I mean, crushing it at 1883, coming off that, Terminalist coming out July 1st.
Yeah.
Then, I don't know, you have probably a ton of projects you can't even talk about. They're still top secret, but I can only imagine.
It's a great year. It's a great year. And for you, like this week, like this book, are you kidding me? And the trailer dropped today.
It did. It dropped today, this morning.
Yeah, like this is the perfect time to have this 2-minute heart-pounding trailer that looked amazing.
It looks really good. It looks really good. Yeah, I saw Chris Pratt posted it first, and as soon as he did, I went to post. I saw you posted it. Taylor Kitsch is posting it, and the comments are just awesome. So positive. People are fired, really fired up.
Yeah, this is a good time, man. I'm so excited right now. We got like another, what is it, mid-May, another month and a half. So it's going to seem like forever, but it's going to, when it comes, it's going to hit hard.
Yeah, it's going to come quick. I saw there's a thing on the schedule for, I won't say the date because I don't know if it's top secret, but the for people that might show up somewhere, I'm not sure. But there's some premiere in June. I saw that. But
there is.
I don't know what a premiere looks like for a series. I mean, I'm not sure what that even entails. And I don't want to be that new guy being too eager to ask questions about the premiere. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of waiting, you know.
For this show, it's going to be a sizable premiere. It's going to be dope. You got Chris Pratt involved, Antoine Fuqua behind it, and the book's just nonstop bestseller. Like it's everything, all the pieces are together for this to be a huge event.
Crazy. I was looking forward to seeing everybody, you know, and hang out a little bit and talk. And I mean, it was so cool how this whole thing came about. And with Antoine, because I don't know if you know that, like I wanted Chris to star as Navy SEAL sniper James Reese, and I wanted Antoine to direct. Before those guys knew I existed. Like as I'm typing, and still in the Navy in Coronado, California, typing away, I'm choosing my actor, I'm choosing my director, I'm choosing my publisher. No connections to Hollywood, no connections to New York publishing. I just think, I'll choose Emily Bessler at Simon & Schuster. Antoine will direct, Chris Pratt will star, of course, you know, typing away. And then all that happened. It's just crazy.
Your thoughts dictated your reality. What they call that, manifesting? You manifested every single part of this, and then look how it's turned out.
Insanity. And then everybody was so cool, you know, because it's my first touch point with Hollywood. You've been there for a while, you know, you've been crushing for a while, but for me, I just have that outside looking in type thing. And like one of my main takeaways when I got home and talked to my wife was, I was like, hey, everybody's just so normal. Like everybody's so cool, you know? Like you're amazing, Antoine's amazing, Chris is amazing, Gene Triplehorn, like all these people that I've seen on TV or watched direct, and there's like normal people. But everybody was so kind.
There's a thing. Hollywood gets that stigma of, you know, there's a couple of seeds, make it look like it's the whole blanket. But most of us are out here just happy to be working and thankful to get great opportunities for great jobs like this one.
Incredible. Working so hard also, like, you know, you can't really talk about how hard, if you talk about how hard you're working in Hollywood,
nobody want to hear that.
Their eyes, you know, like, Hollywood must be really tough going
nobody wants to hear that.
No, but I watched it, you know, I got to see it. I stepped back from that Video Village thing with my screen in my chair, and I was looking and watching, and people are working hard, every single person, from the person in craft food services to the person doing hair and makeup to the director, all the actors totally invested and working so hard. And that was like one of my main takeaways. I was like, this is not what most people think Hollywood is. Like this.
No, the sexy was taken out of it. And especially this shoot, the last couple of shoots I've done, and this one in particular, it was tough, man. Like it's all night. There was some scenes in the water. I don't want to give stuff away, but you're in the ocean all night, treading water. You know, it's Navy SEALs. So, you know, frogmen, like that's what it is. But it was a long, hard shooting, especially for Chris. Yeah. I remember talking to Chris on set, and he was saying he's done so many big projects. He was saying this is the hardest job he's ever had. He's the main lead on it. And television, #1 on the show, gets the heavy lifting. If he's on Guardians, like he might have a hard week, and then someone else will take over for the next week. And, you know, it's a little bit of sharing the heavy lifting. But television, that number one, it's tough.
Oh yeah, so I definitely noticed that, and I didn't know that obviously as I was helping advise on the scripts and learning and working on those scripts, and then morphing them after they came out of the writer's room and all that stuff. But for season 2, that's at the forefront of my mind. If we get to a season 2, I'm outlining it in a way that has some parallel storylines that give Chris a break.
Yeah, give him a little breather.
Exactly.
Let somebody else have the heavy lifting and the scripts. Like,
I want him to look at that thing and be like, oh, okay, great. I can take a tiny breath here, here, here. Oh, it's not all on my shoulders for 6 months of filming every single day. So I have that at the forefront. So I learned this time around to make it maybe a little more appealing. They start talking about a second season. So we'll see. But yeah, man, I hope we get there. And you left the day after we filmed that last scene, your last scene. One of the last scenes of the whole show. It was awesome on the beach. We have a great picture there that I'm gonna post soon as I get the thumbs up from Amazon. And that was so cool. And your scenes, and it's amazing seeing you like go to work, you know, going from from you like being like just you, and then going into that like character. And it's so amazing how you can do it like that, and then you come out and we're talking again and hanging out, and you're like, I gotta leave in like 4 hours to go film this Western, you know. And you went like the next day, I think, almost. And I'm like, oh cool, 1883, they're gonna do this spin-off from prequel to Yellowstone, and that sounds awesome. And then you filmed it and it's out and it's already done, and it's like, that was so fast. How did that happen so fast? It
was a roller coaster. They had to time it out with the actual Yellowstone show. Episode 7, you know, we had a premiere on that, so we started out with our backs against the wall, and it was just when every scene is outside in the elements, and everything is telling you you're not going to make this schedule, and it felt like it was us against the wall. Man. But leading up to that, we were on the beach that night, and I got the call that I got the job like 2 days earlier, and they were like, we need you here right now. Like, I'm still working on the terminal list. All right, so they were going back and forth, and the terminal list was great to work around the schedule and to help me out. And 1883 was great to give me a couple days to film that, and you know, and get out there. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind. So right now I'm just chilling. Like, I'm just enjoying. I got a 2-year-old here, and he's taking up all my time. So being able to do stuff like this it's what it's about. Just hanging out with you real quick.
Perfect. And you go to like some cowboy boot camp or something like for a couple days before you. How was that?
It was 3.5 weeks of cowboy camp, and it was you think it sounds fun, you know, a cowboy camp, like Disneyland. I want to go. Like, where can I sign up? And after like 4 days, when muscles start hurting in your legs and your back that you never knew existed, you're like, and you're waking up at 6 in the morning, you know, horses are talking to each other, steam coming out of the horse's mouth. You're like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. Like, let's cowboy camp was serious, but it was fun though, and we all got to bond through that process right before we started filming, so it was great.
Yeah, I saw you post some stuff, and it seems like you guys got to be really good friends out there. I mean, you're working with amazing people, and what an experience it seems like. And I won't ask what happens next, because you probably got all sorts of stuff in the fire and all that. But
that's what's great about these jobs. Like, you just, you know, it's a brotherhood. Like, you guys are filming, you guys are in these conditions, it's your backs against the wall, and you guys just form this bond. And when the show's over, when the job is over, you still see them out and you embrace each other. Like, we went through something together. And Terminal List was the same way.
Man, that was so cool. Yeah, I saw when I saw you were going to be in it, I was like, yes. And then you know, seeing you in uniform and everything, like, you look like a SEAL. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're worried, can that person pull it off? And like, no, we're not worried about you. And you know, the guy who plays the admiral, you know, like, he looks like an actual admiral. Like, looks like that. Like, his age is perfect. You know,
he has that voice. He has that
voice, that amazing voice. Oh my gosh! And people are going to see him in there and be like, oh my gosh, and look back and like, look what he's done. I mean, everybody was so great on this whole show, and
casting was great.
A lot of time with Gene Triplehorn. I mean, so
amazing,
kind and so humble. Like,
everybody's just grateful. Everybody's grateful to be a part of good projects, because they don't come around, like, they don't just fall off trees. So when they do come around, you're thankful.
Oh man, too cool, too cool. And interesting, like kind of like same way Terminalist came about was a similar way in that the first novel came out in that I didn't have any connection to New York publishing at all. And a buddy of mine, he sat down next to Brad Thor, who's in this, he's an author in the thriller genre at a foundation event for military. And they started talking, and my buddy who was in the SEAL teams with
Was
me,
that Jared?
no, this was Jared was for the show. So this is a different one. So
okay,
the show got to Chris Pratt through Jared.
Yeah.
And that in a very similar fashion. But the actual book kicking off got there in a similar way. And then my friend sat next to Brad Thor, and Brad has a character in his book who's a SEAL. So my friend helped him out for a while. And then as I was getting ready to start writing this book, I was a few months into it. He calls me and says, "Hey, do you think you would like to talk to Brad Thor?" And I said, "Yeah, would he talk to me?" And he set up a call, and I talked to Brad and told him like why I was writing, and my mom was a librarian. I grew up with this love of books and read all these guys growing up, from Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille and AJ Quinnell and JC Pollock and Mark Olden and all these guys who were just incredible authors who had protagonists that I wanted to have a background like in real life one day. And so he finally told me to stop talking, and that, hey, your friend told me some things you did in the SEAL teams, and as a thank you for those things, if you write a book. And now I know how many times people tell you as an author that they're writing a book or they have an idea, that sort of thing. He said, if you actually write this thing, I can let Simon & Schuster, Emily Bestler, the person that I wanted to be my editor and publisher, know that it's coming. And
the biggest in the business. Yeah, like that's the move. Shot forward. You got it.
It. And he's like, I can't guarantee she'll like it. Can't guarantee she'll even open the package or read one word, but I can let her know it's coming. And I said, Roger that. That's all I need. And so he said, when's it going to be done? And I said, a year from today. And then he said, okay, don't call me. I'm not going to give you any advice. I'm not going to read any chapters for you. And I appreciate him being upfront with me on all that stuff. But I called him back a year to the day, and like coming in to home plate the last second, that was my first deadline, and let him know it was done. He remembered me. And then he said, well, is it done or is it as good as it can possibly be? And I said, well, it's done, but I got in under the wire. And he said, well, make it as good as you can possibly get it and call me back. So I spent 4 more months editing it, and then called him and said, it's as good as I can get it. And he said, okay, I'll let him know it's coming. So sent it off to New York, and then Emily Bestler opened it, read it, loved it. And next thing you know,
bestseller.
Bestseller. Crazy. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Emily Bestseller. And she's just so amazing. And I just could not be grateful and more grateful for her taking a risk on me like that and giving me that shot, and for Brad for taking a risk on me and cracking that door and letting me kick it in. But then same thing with the show. I mean, I hadn't talked to Jared in 5 years. And for those listening, Jared Shaw was a SEAL with me. Awesome guy. He's on the show. He plays Boozer on the show. Yeah, he's a producer's on the show. He's an advisor on the show. He was on set every single day, along with Max Adams, a former Ranger who was there every day. And then Ray Mendoza, a former SEAL also. Like those 3 guys with that military background were on set every single day to answer questions and talk about camera angles and give advice. And I really think it would be a different show without those 3 guys on set every single day.
I know I bothered the hell out of them. Like I had questions and but they were at my disposal. Like you have all these authentic badasses right here. Like, yeah, that's why. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah,
too cool. I mean, yeah, and everybody has to be great friends. And I think it would be a different show without those guys there, and then without David DiGilio, showrunner, and Antoine, like trusting those guys and trusting that like, hey, we want this thing as authentic as possible. We want it grounded in the foundation. Yes, there'll be differences between when you're telling a story visually from the novel, but it has to stay grounded in that gritty, violent, dark, primal nature of the novel, and having those guys there to keep it on track as far as that authenticity. I mean, I can be more thankful enough, but Jared called me out of the blue, and I hadn't talked to him in about 5 years. And he calls me out of the blue in November of 2017. And that's a few months before the book came out. It came out in March of 2018. And first he asked if I remembered him. And of course I did. And then he said, hey, do you remember what you did for me? And I'm like, nope. And he said, well, you sat me down in your office. You're the only person that talked to me about transitioning out of the military. You introduced me to people in the private sector, and no one else took the time to do that. And I always say thank you. And I said, no problem. How's it going? And he said, it's going great. But I heard you have a book coming out. And I said, yeah, coming out in a few months. I can send you this rough copy, which is like galley. And I learned what a galley was like 2 weeks before. And I said, I can send it to you. And he said, I'd love to check it out, but I'd also like to give it to a friend of mine. And I said, who's that? And he said, Chris Pratt. was like,
good friend to have. Good friend.
So Jared got it, read it in November, gave it to Chris in December. Chris read it. I have a picture of him reading it on the way to some premiere in London, and in the last week of December in 2017. And then he called the next week and wanted to option it. And then Antoine got it at the same time. So another SEAL buddy got to know Antoine over the years and gave him a copy. He read it, loved it, wanted to option it like right at the same time. So then he calls Chris and says, let's do this thing together. And then they called me, and we're all three executive producers on this thing, and in better hands.
Yeah, well, good things happen to good people, man. If you put good out there and great energy out there and just positivity and just not wanting anything in return, it all comes back full circle throughout, when you're not looking for it. So and you've been doing that. So none of this is accident.
Well, yeah, so crazy that it does happen that way. I mean, it's but as a child of the 80s, like growing, it's kind of like wanting to be an astronaut when you're 7, and then you never dissuaded, you never are like, wait a sec, is that even possible? You just keep thinking it's possible your whole life, and you actually do it, and you've never, and then people say how amazing it is, and you're like, well, yeah, I wanted to do it for so long, and so I just did what I wanted to do. And so for me, it's just like I wanted to write and serve my country in uniform. Those are the two things, and so that's what I did. And but I
highest level
waited along the way. I never got like, oh, that's pretty tough. What are the odds of being a New York Times bestseller? What are the odds of having something adapted to film? And you hear about people talking about the odds all the time. Like for you, like how many people tell you how hard it is?
I'm not supposed to be here.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not supposed to be here. So I tell people, don't worry about the odds. Just put the work in, and everything else, like the money and the fame, whatever, that'll be a byproduct. You put the work in, and everything is going to happen the way it's supposed to happen. And keep that same enthusiasm, that same attitude, and keep showing up for work each day. It's going to happen. Don't think about the odds, because we're not even, this rock is spinning in this orbit. We're not even supposed to be around. If you think about it, like, it's craziness. Yeah, I can't think about all that stuff.
No, and we don't know how much time we have. We have a limited amount of time on this earth, and you get one ride spinning around that. You get one ride on this.
It's not a rehearsal. Yeah.
No. You don't get So that piece of it, and that I love that never tell me the odds piece, because people will always tell you, especially, it's a very similar type of thing. I think that you get as an actor that you can hear as if you're an aspiring author or aspiring screenwriter or whatever it is. People love to tell you the odds of making it, or the odds of not making it. And I don't know why, but that's what they focus on, rather than, oh, somebody else did it, well, I'm going to do it, of course. Because it takes up bandwidth when you're thinking about those odds. And that means that bandwidth isn't going into being the best you can be at your craft. For you in acting, for me in writing, even the SEAL teams, like being the best operator and the best leader I could possibly be in the lead up to even joining the Navy. You're thinking about, oh, these odds, I better have some backup plans, or backup plans are fine, but just don't spend too much time on the backup plans. And don't waste this bandwidth over here, because guess what you can be doing while you're thinking about the odds? Well, you can be doing some more pull-ups. You can be doing some more. You can be reading about warfare, about insurgencies and counterinsurgencies, pushing yourself by yourself, especially in those, like, before you get to buds or before you get to
the things you tell yourself.
When you're by yourself and you're doing something, when you're in the gym or you're doing whatever, easier to quit, because no one knows. But
Yeah, no, 100%.
I thought about that on the beach many times in Buds, and we have that scene in the Terminal List that you're in, that you crush all your seeds. But I love that one because I was there to watch it get filmed. But you can, on that Buds beach, I thought many times about, hey, all those like runs that I did, or all those times that I could have quit by myself when I was training. Where it would have been, no one would have known, but I kept going anyway. And I'm on that beach doing those push-ups, getting yelled at, being told how horrible I am along with the rest of the class, and how we're never going to make it, and all those sorts of things. But I was like, you know what? I didn't quit when I was on my own. I'm certainly not going to quit here on this beach.
And for you in particular, like, the odds of being a Navy SEAL, Bud's training, the fallout, the small percentage that make it, you've defied every odd known to man just being a Navy SEAL. So anything else in life it's like, oh yeah, I get that's nothing. You got to think about it. Like, it's hard. Bud's training. I've read like a bunch of different books when I was, doing the prep work, and it's all the same thing. Like, it's the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life.
That's the draw for a lot of people, for me too, because there's very few things. It used to be a crucible, what used to be a very normal thing to have in society. whether, tribes from the beginning of time. There was this transition period where young men would become men, and it wouldn't just happen like when you turn 18 or you turn 16 and get your driver's license. Like there was some sort of a crucible that you had to go through for most of human history. Yeah. I think I'm still drawn to that in many ways. And Marine boot camp is one that draws people because there's this history, there's this lineage, there's something you share with every single Marine that's ever been. If you go and through that same thing, with there's something I share with every single SEAL, whether they went through in 1968, 1975, 1983. It doesn't matter. We share this thing. This share this thing, this common bond, this common experience. And societies used to have that. And I often wonder if a lot of the divisiveness that we have today comes from not having a shared experience. We're very comfortable, especially in this country, but we don't have this shared like crucible that we all have, other than winning the lottery to be born in a place to make our own decisions and make our own way. But crucibles have been a part of human history from really the beginning of time. And unless you seek it out today, you don't really have that test, or unless life just hit, and life's going to hit you hard no matter what. And that might be your crucible, just having to figure out that you have to get back up, and you get to decide how you're going to get back up. If you're going to complain, or if you're going to be an inspiration to people as you get back up and influence your circle, whether it's 2 people or 35 million, on social channels. So it's a really interesting time to be alive, that's for sure. But the Buzz experience, I think is one of those crucibles. And
it definitely, things that are shared, it brings you closer together. And if you all share that same experience, no matter what your differences are, that kind of, that'll bond you. It absolutely will. Absolutely. Think about like for this, the new book. All right, this right here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, but my dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, my cousins, they all served in the military, Army, Navy. They all fought overseas. I was the one that went the other route. But whenever I'm fortunate enough to play a soldier, I get to pick their brains. And after I was done with Terminal List, it was like the one thing that kept coming up about the shoot and the experience was authenticity. And I was like, man, like I was telling them, like you said, Ray and them and Jared, like you had all these people on set that really did it. So I didn't have to reach far to, would a commander do this? And, out there on the beach and Bud's training, barking out orders, pacing, the cadence, I had these guys at my disposal, like helping me out. And, just as far as that goes, there's a question I had for you, and there's a question that someone from the audience sent in too, so I'll give them their credit. It's Sanford Abrams said, did you live any of the events in your books? Because it seems like you're a fly on the wall with these books, and it feels so real taking this experience with James Reese. That was a question I had, and obviously I'm not the only one that has that kind of question.
Oh man, well, thank you. And so most of them come from the emotions and the feelings behind certain things I was involved in. So in the book, if James Reese gets ambushed in Los Angeles, California, I go back and I think about what it was actually like to be ambushed in Baghdad, Iraq in 2006. And then I take those emotions and apply them directly to a fictional narrative. I think that really made it stand out to Simon & Schuster, because usually you would have to go and track somebody down who's been in an ambush or something, talk to them, and then you take what they tell you, give the answers that they give you, and go through certain filters that you have, preconceived notions, biases, what you've read about ambushes in the military or that sort of a thing, what you've seen in movies, the popular culture influence, and then you translate it to a fictional narrative. So there's most of these filters where with me, I just think back what it was actually like, and then I apply that directly to it. So it comes out, it is raw, and it is gritty, and it is real, and it is passionate, and it comes right from my heart and right from my soul. And I think that really made it, because Simon & Schuster sees thousands of these books every year. And then also readers have thousands and thousands, untold thousands of choices out there. And so for it to resonate with Simon & Schuster, for it to resonate with readers, I think that's a big part of it. Same thing, I don't have to go track down a sniper from Ramadi, Iraq in 2006 and then ask him what it was like to drop over the wall of the compound and sneak into the city at night and break into some house or something and get up in a higher room that's just under the rooftop maybe, and set up a urban hide site and do that job. I can just remember what it was like to do those things and then apply them directly to the narrative. So that makes it stand out. And that's mostly what I bring from my personal experience. But then there's also things, there's people, there's inside jokes, there's little things that I drop in there, little Easter eggs that I drop in there. But there's one actual event, actually it's two actual events, and I fictionalized it by making them one for the first novel that is an actual event from my life and from the SEAL teams and from combat. And it was this Najaf in 2004. And there was we had given 2 weeks to the Jaish al-Mahdi militia to leave this city. They had taken over Old Town Najaf, which is it's a holy site in Islam, the Imam Ali Mosque, one of the holiest sites in all of Islam. And they'd given the populace 2 weeks to get out. So most everybody had left the city. It was only an insurgent stronghold. And then we came in with 2-7 Cav, and I had my sniper team, and we just moved in and had it was a 2-week campaign, but we had 11 days of just pitched street fighting, like it was like a World War II movie that I watched growing up. It was just insane. Because usually in special operations, not always, but for the most part, we choose the time and place of our engagement, meaning we're maximizing our technical capabilities, our tactical capabilities. We're using our night vision and our thermals, and we're showing up at a time and place of our choosing to, like, just like a lot of SWAT teams might do to serve warrants in this country. But ours happens to be in Baghdad or Ramadi or Mosul or someplace like that. And go grab an insurgent out of the bomb maker out of his bed, get him back, and that sort of a thing. But in this case, it was this 11-day campaign, and really the interpretation of the rules of engagement was that everyone was bad. And I came to this corner, and there's RPGs and there's mortars and it's chaos. And I get to this corner, and I clear this corner, and there's a guy going the other direction. And he's in all black, so he's dressed like the Jaish al-Mahdi militia was for this particular engagement. And he's on a bike, like a beach cruiser, like you'd find in a beach community. And he's in the middle of the road, and he's just riding his bike. And I came up, and I had my scope on him, and I had it off safe, and because it was in the middle of a gunfight. And I was like, something just didn't look quite right about it. It just like it didn't seem like it just didn't feel right. And so put it up back on safe, checked up, and then I got back on my radio and said, hey, the Army logistics train that was bringing water and bullets and all the rest of that stuff, that's a few city blocks back. And I said, hey, there's a guy on a bike, he's coming your direction. I don't see a weapon on him, just doesn't seem quite right. And so let them kind of take him and question him and that sort of a thing. But he was like in this fight. It was just crazy. And then you see this person just like he's not a care in the world.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I made that decision, obviously not to shoot. I sleep very well at night, having made that decision. And then a second thing happened in that campaign where my sniper team and I were running through the streets, and we're having this big crazy battle thing. And we jump over this wall, and we're all looking at each other, because usually we're in helicopters, we're in gun trucks, and we're getting to our building, and we're going in and taking it in the middle of the night, and then we're going back to base, and that's it. Then you can have some food, have some water, relax, play, read a book, whatever you're gonna do, play a video game, watch a movie. But this was not like that. This was full on combat for 11 days nonstop. And we jump over this wall, and we look at each other, because this is such a different type of combat experience rather than what we've been used to with short engagements at night and then getting back to base. And we look at each other like, this is insane. Everybody okay? Yeah, okay, awesome. Let's go. And we hop over this wall, and not a second after the last person hits the ground, a mortar lands exactly where we've been standing just a few seconds earlier, not a minute earlier. And so I took both of those events that happened within, I can't remember if they're the same day, or because it was all blurred because we were just awake and grabbing cat naps here and there. So I can't remember if it was the same day or it was separated by a day, but I combined those together for the terminal list. And I have James Reese make the decision not to shoot and then move. And then if he hadn't done that, then a mortar would have hit and he would have been dead. So he made a decision not to shoot. And then that saved his life by someone else's life. I combined two different events from my experience. And that was the closest, I think, to anything that actually happened to me that I put in the book, because usually it's just the feelings and emotions. But that one was actually an event. And it's just James Reese kind of thinking about that. I use it as a character development tool in that first novel. And it was very therapeutic to write, because I did use it as an example to all the guys that I work with after that. And I talked about the shot that I didn't take, and to let them know that you know, you're going to have to make decisions downrange, whether you're a sniper in a hide site or you're coming into a room and there's, you know, women and children screaming and it's confusing. And, you know, you think that's your guy. Does he have a gun or not? And then you're on nods, and which means you're like these night vision devices, which are like kind of like toilet paper tubes like that. If you had them up against your eyes, like that's kind of your field of vision. It's very confusing. It can be very confusing. So I just wanted to let them know that, you know, it's okay to sometimes not take a shot. That might be the right decision. Maybe not, but maybe. And that all comes down. And that's when it's tough, if it comes down to that 18-year-old kid who's standing guard duty. So that's why I have all the respect in the world for that E1, E2, E3, E4, E5 Marine Army guy that's standing at a gate and sees a vehicle coming up.
What do you do?
Maybe it looks like it's low, and is it have bad suspension? I mean, we're in Iraq, we're in Afghanistan, you know, it's not right off the factory floor. Is it packed full of explosives, or does it just have bad suspension and it's full of a family and it's coming up? And maybe a week before, your best friend got killed by an IED from a vehicle-borne explosive device and something very similar. And then you have to decide what to do. We have other friends now behind you that are doing their other duties at a gate. And what do you do? And you're not, and that's a lot for an 18-year-old to figure out. So I have all the respect in the world for those guys that stood at those gates in Iraq and Afghanistan for all the years there. So a lot of me ends up in the book, I guess is the way to. That was a very long answer to that question.
No, but that was like you telling that. We can get to try to knock out a few of these questions, but you telling me that story, I saw everything that you were saying. You're a storyteller. And that's why these books you write, people gravitate towards them, because there's just something about it. Like, I was with you word for word. I forgot what the question was. I'm just following, like, man, like, tell me more, but I know we got to get to some of this other stuff. But I could listen to those stories just all day. And if you can't have you with us all day, you can read these books, and it's, you know, it's in the books.
Thanks, man.
So let me, another question from Joe Fox. What's your favorite Jack Reese moment of all the books so far? That's
all right. Favorite James Reese moment. So, gosh, it seems like the last book
Jack Reese,
right, is always my favorite. People ask me my favorite book or that sort of thing, and people do that a lot. They do the Jack Reese because Jack.
Yeah, I was like, wait, that's not right. I'm reading it, but...
People do that all the time. It's quite common. But I think that the book wise, it's not scene wise or kill wise or something. I'm always more invested in whatever I've just done, because I just finished it. So I've been researching in this one, doing a lot of research into quantum computing and artificial intelligence and mass data storage and surveillance of US citizens, things that I had no touch points with in the military, no background in. Really, the first three books, Terminalist, True Believer, and Savage Son, I have a very strong foundation in those themes and that research. I mean, I'd call up people to confirm certain things, or at least I know who to reach out to. I mean, I don't know who to reach out to even to do research into quantum computing. And for those who don't know what a quantum computer looks like, when I started, I thought it was just a really big computer.
Right.
That's not the case. It's, if you go to a quantum computer and you put it in your search bar and press images, it's this crazy Medusa thing of wires suspended and hanging down in a vacuum. And it's beautiful. It looks like a work of art, actually. Oh, wow. But I had no idea until I started down this path of doing that research. Same thing with the bioweapons research in the last novel, In the Devil's Hand. I had no touch point with that in the military. So I had to go deep into that research, interview a lot of people, almost like a journalist would, talk to people. And then, okay, this person's leaving something out. So is this person, so is this person. But guess what? They all left out different things. And now I can start putting this together based on
fill it in the blanks
that I've done. So same thing with this one. But what did they say? My favorite scene that I've ever written? Is that what
your favorite moment of all the books? Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the one that I get asked. I mean, it's what I've just worked on always for whatever reason. So now it's book 6, which I'm writing right now. But the one that I get asked about the most is the gutting scene from the Terminal List. And as soon as I said that, hey, Amazon has this thing and we're going to start filming soon, when I started to announce that, the most common thing that people said online, it was either a statement or a question. And the statement was, Amazon's never going to allow that gutting scene. Or I got the question was, do you think Amazon will let you guys keep that scene in there? And, I won't spoil it. You'll have to watch to find out the answer to that question. But that was a special one because I was at lunch with someone years and years ago, and they had in the 80s, they were part of the intelligence apparatus in this country, and they had a touch point with Iran-Contra. And I was just fascinated hearing them talk. And it was just the two of us at having lunch together. And he mentioned the Shining Path guerrilla movement and in South America, and how they would do that gutting scene, or not the scene. They would actually gut people and make them walk around these trees and let them essentially get eaten alive by the jungle. And they did that as a warning to others. Either you're going to join us or this is going to happen, type of a thing. But they didn't make it up. It has a long lineage. So if you go back and look throughout history and how people filtered down and got to South America, it's very, I wouldn't say common, but tribes did that. Communities, peoples have done that throughout.
Wow.
I was like, and because of the primal nature of the novel and how James Reese is a student of warfare, it was just something that if let off the leash and having no constraints whatsoever and having everything taken from him and thinking that he's dying, that was a very important part to me too. I needed to figure out how to have a character that thought he was dying and go into combat like the samurai would in Japan. They would go into combat thinking they were already dead because they thought it made them more effective and efficient warriors. And I thought, how do we get that into a modern day warrior who's not an actual samurai from ancient times? And I thought,
that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
How the whole conspiracy thing came up. And then I did research into the church hearings in the 70s, where a lot of abuses by the CIA, different branches of the federal government came to light. And one of the things that came to light was the testing of drugs on people in mental institutions, prisoners, college students, and people in the military. A lot of changes came about after those hearings, but I thought, what if somebody didn't get the memo? And we try this again today after all these years at war, and we try these beta blockers for PTSD. And so that's how that all came about. So he would think that he's already dead going into combat. So I'd say maybe that gutting scene, because and when I got to Simon & Schuster, it was so interesting. So I met everybody, and we're in this room, and it's mostly females in the room. And I see this one lady across the room, and I'm just talking to people over here, and she's just looking at me. And in my mind, I'm like, oh no, she's going to come over here and tell me how much she hates this book and how much she hates how horrible I am and how could I write such a thing. And she's not smiling. And I'm just kind of watching her out of the corner of my eyes. I'm talking. And then as everybody starts to kind of leave, she walks over and she's like, that gutting scene. I'm like, here it comes. And she's like, that was my favorite scene in the whole book.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All audiences. Yeah. Like you never know.
So I think it's probably that one, just because it's the one I asked about the most, and it's kind of turning into an iconic type of a chapter, and we'll see if it makes it into our show.
Yeah, you got to tune in July 1st to find that out. Prime Video. Here's another question: what was your favorite part about filming the series? I think we touched over some of that stuff already.
Yeah, meeting all these people that were involved in it, seeing how good everyone was at all of their jobs, how they're at the top of their profession, no matter what they were doing, and seeing how that all came together to make this thing. It's like a Lamborghini that is speeding down the track over 200 miles an hour. And you have to be your part of that engine, doing your specific job as good as you can possibly do it. And you're at the top of your profession, because if you're not, or you're distracted, or you're not in your game, guess what happens? It's tink, 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 and you got to take that thing into the shop, because it's flying. So that was a really cool thing to see how normal everyone was. So many people came up to me on set and would say, hey, my daughter's going to boot camp in the morning. Would you mind signing a book? And I always had a big box of books I brought with me, and absolutely sign it, personalize it for them. Or someone would say, my son's going on his first deployment. Would you mind signing something? He's a big fan, and absolutely, boom. So just how normal everybody was and how good they were. And then how similar that set was to a military operation. I mean,
they do a great job.
It's crazy. It's like craft food services, because in the military, you got to feed the troops. So that's there. You have the explosives guy on set, just like in the SEAL teams. We have our breacher who has to get in the doors with explosive charges and that sort of a thing. The mobility guy, making sure the vehicle's all ready to go in the right places, all set up. We have a mobility guy in the SEAL team as well. The armorer, you have an armorer in your SEAL team. You're handing the weapons back and forth and checking them in, doing the inventories. And then you have Antoine as like the commanding officer, as the director at the top. Like he's setting the tone for everybody. And then
cool-headed,
and then you have Chris at like the tactical level down here, like setting the tone tactically and having all of that work together. So it was just amazing how similar it was to a SEAL team. And much like a SEAL team, if you have a dysfunctional person at the top, and the triad at the top there, the master chief, the executive officer, the commanding officer, if they're not getting along, or you have somebody that, I don't know how they got there. I mean, it affects everyone.
It affects everybody. And what I tell people, I've been on a couple shows in the past where it's kind of it wasn't the best environment on set. It wasn't the most fun job to go to, but you get those jobs where the number one, which was Chris, when they're cool and when they just have this energy about them and they take care of everyone, it's so fun going to work.
Yeah.
And Chris created that environment. It starts with the one on set because he's the one. If he's not the best version of himself, then the crew is miserable. The crew is miserable. The actors are going to be miserable. The hair and make, like, it just, like you said, that one person that just, it disrupts the whole thing. And it starts with the one. Yeah. And that was Chris. And he, solid, great dude. And it, you know, it was a fun time at work.
Oh yeah, that was so noticeable. And it was just like SEAL Team 2. If you have somebody like that, not just the commanding officer, but then maybe he could be great, but then you have your guy down here who's like your platoon commander or your troop commander, and that guy's a disaster, then, oh my gosh, it affects everybody. Yeah. But I saw, and so many people came up to me on set, like hair and makeup or whatever. They come up and say, hey, I've been on hundreds of these sets and nothing has felt like this one in all of my time working in Hollywood. And that was so cool to hear those sorts of things from multiple people, not just one. So many people made a point to come over to that Video Village thing and talk to me and let me know that. So
it was a great environment, man. It was a great work environment for sure. Let me see. Here's one. That might take a little time.
I'll try to answer it quickly.
Any chance the current Ukraine-Russia situation will be a backdrop setting for your next novel? John Perkerson.
John, that is a great question because it was actually a backdrop setting for True Believer, my second novel. So everything is building towards this threat of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. So that's actually happened now. So as I'm writing this outline for
John, you got to read your books. That's what that sounds. That's what that sounds like.
So he's waiting for the show. He's waiting for season 2. Yeah. But as I'm thinking about how to do this, and I'm talking to David Agilio, the showrunner, I'm like, all right, he has my current outline. I'm still working on it. He's thinking about it. So we need some geopolitical type of a strategic situation that things can be building towards that makes sense. And it made so much sense because of the characters having this Russian connection in the second book, having a connection to Reese's father, the way Reese escapes in the book, where he ends up in Africa, how he gets up there to North Africa, to Morocco, and then how he work. It just makes sense geographically. It makes sense for the characters. The flow was good. And now, well, we can't use it because it's already happened, and it doesn't. Well, spoiler alert, it's a threat that happening in the book, but now that it's actually happened, I got to figure out a way to be creative and figure out kind of a way around that. But
that's
still
interesting. For season 2. That's interesting. Here's one. This is a good one. If the SEALs didn't exist, which special forces unit would you have attempted to join?
That is a good one. All right. Yeah, probably Army Special Forces, just because growing up, those were the 2 units that I studied the most. SEALs, Army Special Forces, those 2. Marines have the Raiders now. You have Air Force PJs, which are incredible. So everybody has their own special operations type of a unit. But yeah, probably Army Special Forces, just because the time I grew up in, and I was looking back to Vietnam then, that was really a watershed moment in special operations history, particularly for Army Special Forces and Navy SEALs. And so it would probably be Army Special Forces. And I'm very lucky to meet a lot of guys that actually had done that and train me up for the SEAL teams before I even joined the Navy. I found these Army Special Forces guys, and they passed along some of those lessons that they'd experienced in the jungles of Southeast Asia to me. And a lot of those actually ends up in the novels as well.
And all you guys work together too. Like when you're overseas, and it's like you guys are kind of, it's all interrelated, sort of, right? When you're on a mission.
Yep, I had more Army Special Forces working for me in Iraq during my last deployment for the drawdown in 2011 than I had SEALs. So I had multiple outstations as a troop commander in Basra, which was the most Iranian influenced section of southern Iraq at the time, and more Army Special Forces guys than SEALs, and had an amazing time working with them.
Amazing,
just incredible.
Here's a good one. Do you plan on ever writing a nonfiction book about your personal experiences downrange? Jason Lieberman.
Jason. So, no, I do get that question quite a bit, and no is the short answer. I love writing these. I love writing James Reese. I love writing fiction. And there were so many people that did so much more than I ever could have hoped to have done Downrange. So if I write nonfiction, it'll be something where I study an historical event and write it from maybe a different perspective, possibly the enemy's perspective or something like that. I'm really interested in doing that. And that's on my list of things to do in the coming years. But right now the priority is book 6 and getting that one done and making that as good as it can possibly be and move the genre forward. My goal is always to move the genre forward, even if it's just by a degree, and then always get better at my craft, because people are trusting me with that time that they're never going to get back. So whether it's the book and they're reading it, or they're listening to it for 13 hours, hearing Ray Porter do their narration, or they're just reading one of my Instagram posts, I feel a responsibility to be a good vanguard, really, of that time that they're never going to get back, because they're trusting me. And
I love that. I love how you said that. They're trusting me with their time that they're never going to get back. And then that just puts a level of not pressure, but just respect and just energy towards, what you're doing. And
that's exactly right. It's a respect. And I haven't really thought of it that way before, but it's a respect for people who are trusting me with that time. And as much thought goes into any sentence in the book as goes into any Instagram post or Twitter post. They all get the same amount of attention, which is all of me, each and every time, because of that respect for the people that are trusting me with their time.
I love that. Hell yeah, man. Let me see here. What's the best way to build and maintain suspense in thriller novels? Afreen Shanavas.
Ooh, that's a great question. A lot of it's natural, so I don't follow a formula. It's just I did so much reading growing up. I did watch so many movies and adaptations from the books that I was reading, or I would hope that something I was reading was going to get adapted, and so I would think about that in my head. And so I gave myself an early education in the art of storytelling. So I never went to a book and thought, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. Yeah, okay. I just write what I like to read and try to do it, try to move things forward. So all those guys that I read growing up, they essentially, I look at them as my mentors, as my professors. Some of them are my friends today, like David Morrell, who created Rambo back in 1972. I think next week is the publication date of it, back in 1972, and it's never been out of print. And that novel, very different than the movie with Sylvester Stallone a decade later. Both awesome, both amazing. So I really gave myself an education in the art of storytelling by reading all those guys growing up. And now I've completely forgotten the question. I got so excited talking about all these guys that I read growing up.
No, that was like you said, you don't have a process, like you go kind of with feel and the research and all the other.
Yeah, so I didn't like look at something or take a class or do a master class on, I think it could probably be helpful, but I didn't just wake up one day and decide to be an author and think, hey, can you make a living at this? It's it's a calling. Like military was a calling. It's called the profession of arms for a reason, not the career of arms. Same thing with writing. I look at it as a profession, and so I never looked at how to. Oh, okay, I follow this formula. No, it's all this just a feel. And I know that, I write typically in 3 parts. This is a little different than what I've done in the past, but people I think things in 3 acts, with the bookends on either side of that. I like the prologue. I like the epilogue. I like to put a little bit in there in a preface that kind of sets the tone before people start reading. And then at the end, I do a little author's note that talks about what was fact, what was fiction. But there's a lot of that blending together in all my novels. But I didn't get that from anybody. I didn't read a book that told me to do that. That was just something that came naturally from all that study and all that reading and being a fan, being a true fan of the genre for as long as I can remember.
And having that passion in it. And that goes a long way. That goes a long way. We have time for probably one more. What's the best piece of advice you received on your journey to become a published novelist? Did you find a mentor along the way? Scott Flincham.
Yep. So all those guys that I mentioned were mentors. They didn't know me. I mean, I know David now and Stephen Hunter now, but they didn't know me. They certainly didn't know me back then. But there's one piece of advice that Brad Thorpe did pass along to me, and he got it from somebody else, and I forget who it was. I think it was an author from the 70s. But they said, "Don't be afraid to write a bad chapter." And I thought, oh, interesting. I'm hearing this from someone who is a novel 20 or whatever Brad was at the time when he passed it along. And he got it from someone who is so successful and written so many books. And I thought, interesting that someone that they can say that, someone so successful can say something like that. And I thought, interesting. And so what they mean is don't get stuck. So you're writing that first sentence and you're like halfway through it, like, oh, this is awful. Oh, who's going to read this? Oh, I can't possibly, I'm going to stay for days and months and years on this sentence or this paragraph. Hey, you know what? It's okay. Just write it. Give yourself permission to write a bad chapter. Guess what you can do? You can come back and fix it later.
Absolutely.
Edit it later. But in order to do that editing, it has to be there. So I thought, hey, give yourself permission to write a bad sentence, a bad chapter, even a bad book, and then go back, but do the work and get it done. And in my head, I also think about this when I write, particularly when I do the outline, is don't get stuck on something, meaning like, how's he going to get out of this? Oh, geez, how's he going to, I don't know how's the audience or the reader going to believe this? Oh, I'm really stuck here. I don't think, no. Guess what? I just go on. I go over through around that, put some X's there on the page, knowing that I have a year to figure this out. And I'm going to figure it out during that time frame. I am very confident in that fact. It's not like bullets are flying. I'm on the battlefield. People's lives are depending on me. I need to make a quick split-second decision that's going to affect them and their families and the mission. And well, guess what? I can sleep. I can come back to this a week later. I can come back a month later and I can figure this out. So yeah,
give great advice.
A bad chapter, I think, is particularly for writing it was good advice that I received that I pass on whenever I can.
That's great advice. It just tells you to keep writing, keep going. You don't have to figure this out by noon or the whole thing is going to fall apart. Just put it all together and you can go back.
That's it. I guess the other one I got from Stephen Pressfield, who wrote Legend of Bagger Vance. He read Afghan Campaign, Gates of Fire. He's actually at my book signing last night. I mean, what an honor. He's just such an amazing guy. But he wrote this thing, and he has a series on creativity also. The first one's called The War of Art. He has one called Turning Pro. And he says, hey, you're a professional. Sit down and write. You've never heard of a dentist getting dentist block. You've never heard of a truck driver getting trucker's block. Sit down, you're a professional, sit down and write. And I thought, wow, that's amazing.
Get it done.
Yourself as a professional and you sit down and do the work, it just makes it, I don't know, it's not a hobby. It's not something that you have to wait for everything to be perfect in life before you start. Because guess what? Very rarely is that going to be the case.
Not going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah, those little nuggets, man, those little pieces of advice, it might seem little, it might not seem like a lot, but it resonates and it's just, everyone goes through it. We were on set for this, the Western, and Billy Bob Thornton, I mean, me, him, Tim McGraw, we're all sitting around and he said, for actors, if you think you're not doing enough, you're probably still doing too much. So I'm like, when you really think like, wow, like that's just, okay, I'm gonna tell every actor I know that, like when I get back, it's small, it's complex, but it's so simple. And it's just advice, like you said, keep writing. It's not, we're not splitting atoms right now. This is just keep writing. Just keep going.
Exactly. I like those two together. Give yourself permission to write a bad chapter and sit down and do the work, be a professional. And two things I think really allow me to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're getting close to wrapping up. I want to say a few things. Thanks for all the ticket holders, the people that came to listen to us chat. I had a great time sitting here hanging out with Jack. It's been a while since I've seen you, on the beach, but great time talking to you. Those who bought tickets, that includes a signed copy of In the Blood. It'll be delivered in 8 to 10 business days. Yep, I got mine.
There it is. You got it. Yeah.
Extra copies of In the Blood are available 24/7 on bn.com and at your local Barnes and Nobles stores. So yeah, it's this week. This is a big week. Book came out. The trailer dropped. If you haven't seen the trailer for Terminalist, go check that out. It's amazing. July 1st on Prime Video. Cancel the weekend or the day or however you binge, because you're not going to want to go anywhere after seeing the first one. And yeah, man, I had a great time chopping it up with you.
So great. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I sincerely appreciate it. And man, you crushed it on the Terminal List, crushed it in 1883, crushed it in everything you do.
Thank you, man.
An inspiration to me and to, thousands of people that you'll never know. So I appreciate your message personally, and then what you're doing professionally, and just how cool that is to see. And I'm just fired up for what's ahead for you. I
appreciate it, brother. Me and the wife, my birthday is Monday.
Hey, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. We were dropping my 2-year-old off at my brother's house. And it's the first time we've been away, as adults, me and the wife getting out. And we're going to San Diego just to sit back, relax, and do absolutely nothing. And nice. Absolutely nothing for me consists of sitting by a pool.
There you go.
A drink and just reading this damn book. So I appreciate it, man. I appreciate everything you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll link up in person again here soon.
I'm sure you'll be there. The premiere is next month. I don't know when, where, how, or whatever, but yeah, that's going to happen. So I can't wait to see you.
Perfect. Bro. Perfect. I'll see you in a month.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Take care. Thank you again. Appreciate it, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye.